The 6th of April, 1941. The skies above Belgrade roar with German aircraft as bombs fall on the city and across the country. Under the code name Operation Strafgericht, Nazi Germany begins its invasion of Yugoslavia. The goal is clear: to secure the Balkans and protect the southern flank before turning east toward the Soviet Union. Within 11 days, Yugoslav resistance collapses, and the kingdom is carved up among Axis powers. In the years that follow, occupation brings terror as German, Italian, and local collaborationist forces wage brutal campaigns against partisan resistance, destroying entire villages in acts of reprisal. 3 years after the Nazi invasion, beneath the slopes of Mount Kamešnica, that brutality reaches its peak. Between the 26th and 30th of March 1944, troops of the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division, Prinz Eugen, joined by the 369th Infantry Division, descend on Croat villages. What begins as an anti-Partisan operation turns into a massacre of civilians, during which 3,000 women, children, and the elderly are brutally murdered. However, this crime will not remain unpunished, and the main perpetrators will pay for their crimes with their own lives. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. When Germany's ally, Italy, failed to conquer Greece in the late autumn and winter of 1940 to 1941, Germany became increasingly concerned about securing its southeastern flank in the Balkans. Greece's success in repelling Italian forces allowed its ally, Great Britain, to establish a foothold on the European continent. To conquer Greece and drive the British off the mainland, Nazi Germany sought to bring Yugoslavia and Bulgaria into the Axis alliance, which was a military coalition led by Germany, Italy, and Japan. On the 25th of March 1941, Yugoslavia joined the Axis and agreed to permit German troops to transit through its territory en route to Greece. The announcement of the agreement was extremely unpopular in many parts of the country, particularly in Serbia and Montenegro. The Yugoslav government soon declared that it would not honor its obligations under the pact. Adolf Hitler was furious. Although Prime Minister General Dusan Simovic attempted to retract the statement within days, Hitler ordered the invasion of Yugoslavia on the evening of the 27th of March. After the invasion and occupation of Yugoslavia, Dalmatia, a historical region located along the Adriatic coast of today's Republic of Croatia, fell under fascist Italian control. The mountainous interior, known as the Dalmatian hinterland, became a stronghold of partisan resistance. When Italy surrendered to the Allies in September 1943, German forces swiftly moved in to seize control of the region, taking over Italian positions and imposing martial rule. The 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division, Prinz Eugen, was one of the 2 divisions deployed to suppress the growing insurgency. Formed in 1941, the Prinz Eugen Division was already infamous for its brutality against civilians across the Balkans. Its ranks were filled with ethnic German volunteers from Yugoslavia, Hungary, and Romania. The other was the 369th Infantry Division, a unit of the German army made up mostly of Croatian troops serving under the fascist Ustaša regime. As partisan activity intensified in the Dalmatian mountains around Mosor and Kamešnica, German authorities accused local Croat villages of helping the partisans. What began as a counterinsurgency campaign soon turned into collective punishment. In late March 1944, the German command ordered a punitive operation in the Kamešnica Valley, an action that would culminate in one of the bloodiest massacres in Dalmatia during the war. The operation began on the 26th of March 1944. The Germans and their local collaborators advanced from the direction of Mosor toward the Kamešnica Valley, pursuing retreating partisan units. When the partisans slipped away into the mountains, the Nazis turned their fury on the local population. Villagers were accused of sheltering the resistance, and the reprisals began almost immediately. On the 28th of March, the Nazi divisions swept through the villages of Otok, Ruda, and Donji Dolac, one after the other. What followed was a massacre of terrifying brutality. In a single day, 834 people were murdered, women, children, and the elderly among them. More than 500 homes were burned, and everything of value was taken. Soldiers tore rings, watches, and other valuables from the bodies of the dead. Families were gathered into courtyards and barns, then shot with machine guns while grenades were thrown among the wounded. Others were locked inside their homes, which were soaked with petrol and set on fire. In one house in the village of Otok, 45 burnt bodies were found. In another, 22 corpses lay piled together. In the village of Ruda, the locals were rounded up in one place and executed. Anyone who tried to hide or run was hunted down and killed on sight. Nazis and their collaborators also murdered those who had offered them food or shelter out of fear, and even those who had been forced to follow the soldiers to carry ammunition and supplies. Not even infants in their mothers' arms were spared. Witnesses later said the massacres had been carefully prepared in advance, as the villagers had offered no resistance and gave the Germans no reason for reprisal. By the time the operation ended, on the 30th of March, the valley beneath Mount Kamešnica lay in ruins. Among the worst affected were the villages of Donji Dolac and Voštane. The village of Donji Dolac lost 272 inhabitants, including 103 children. Voštane suffered the heaviest losses, with between 337 and 400 civilians killed, among them 143 children. Estimates of the total death toll vary. At least 1,500 civilians were confirmed killed, while other wartime reports place the number as high as 3,000. The Hostages Trial, one of the post-war Nuremberg follow-up trials, later recorded 2,014 victims across 22 villages. In the months following the massacre, the men of Prinz Eugen and the 369th Infantry Divisions continued their brutal campaign across Yugoslavia, especially in Bosnia and Croatia, leaving behind burned villages and murdered civilians as they retreated north. Though many of those responsible for atrocities across the region never faced trial, justice, or even revenge would eventually catch up with the perpetrators of the Kamešnica massacre. In the final weeks of the war, the remnants of the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prinz Eugen retreated north through Bosnia and Croatia, trying to reach Austria and surrender to the Western Allies. On the 10th of May 1945, they reached the Slovenian town of Celje, and the following day laid down their arms before units of the Yugoslav People's Army, 3 days after Germany's capitulation. All personnel of the Prinz Eugen Division taken prisoner by the Yugoslav Army were then killed. Most were executed wholesale, without trial, and disposed of through various methods immediately after their surrender. The killings, which were never punished, were ordered by local Yugoslav commanders, who apparently acted in direct violation of Marshal Josip Broz Tito's instructions to detain the captives in prison camps and screen them for war criminals. In 2010, a large mass grave was uncovered near the Slovenian village of Brežice, containing the remains of around 2,000 Prinz Eugen soldiers. They had been stripped naked, bound together with telephone wire, and shot, their bodies buried in a trench during a summary mass execution on the 22nd of May, 1945. Many of the soldiers' relatives later perished during the expulsion and killing of German-speaking civilians across Eastern Europe. The commander of the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division, Prinz Eugen, SS-Brigadeführer August Schmidhuber, met a similar fate. On the 11th of May, 1945, he was captured by Yugoslav partisans and handed over to the authorities in Belgrade. A Yugoslav military tribunal tried him on charges of massacres, deportations, and atrocities against civilians, and sentenced him to death by hanging. He was executed in February 1947 in Belgrade. The 369th Infantry Division would soon share the fate of the Prinz Eugen Division. Initially numbering around 14,000 troops and organized into 2 infantry regiments, it was commanded by about 3,500 German officers, non-commissioned officers, and specialists. The division had fought against the partisans throughout the war, but by April 1945, it was reduced to battle group strength, numbering only about 3,000 men, most of its German officers already dead or missing. In the final weeks of the war, the remnants of the division retreated through northwestern Bosnia and the Croatian region of Slavonia toward Austria. Scattered and exhausted, the surviving troops were intercepted by Yugoslav partisans near the town of Dravograd in Slovenia. On the 11th of May, 1945, the division, apart from a single company, was disarmed. The few who tried to fight their way across the border were defeated within days. A total of 160 officers and nearly 2,900 men surrendered to British forces. Because the division consisted of both Germans and Croatians, the German members were held in Austria, while the Croatian soldiers were handed over to the partisans, who executed most of them. The division's commander, Generalleutnant Fritz Neithold, was extradited to Yugoslavia, tried for war crimes, and hanged in Belgrade in February 1947. It is estimated that during the Second World War, around 1.2 million people were killed in Yugoslavia, of whom approximately 581,000 were civilians.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.